I kind of wanted to see her move in this movie. Annabelle creation. The prequel to an original film by James Wan. The plot. In the 1940s, a young girl named Annabelle was killed in a tragic accident. 12 years later, and her parents, the Mullins, have taken in 6 orphans to stay for a while. However, for an evil force, this is exactly what it wanted. I didn't really care for the first Annabelle at all. There were some redeeming qualities, but it ended up being just David S. Sandberg, the director of Lights Out, directed this movie. While I do think a lot of his elements from that movie seeped into this one, for better or worse, it doesn't change the fact that if Lights Out was awesome, then this has a great chance to be on the same tier. Was it, though? Not really. Don't get me wrong, this movie is scary fun, but it did feel lacking in a few departments. Some of the editing choices were a bit odd. I am not talking about camera techniques or tricks, though. I'm talking about actual edits. Like, there's this one scene where Linda, played by Lulu Wilson from Ouija Origin of Evil, sees the Annabelle doll rocking in a chair. Then it cuts to her in her room for a prop gag scene, where she takes an old toy you shoot rubber balls out of and reel them back in. It was a scary scene, but I couldn't figure out 2 things about it. Why the hell was she doing this? And wow, what an abrupt edit. Also, the weight of the grief in this movie is almost non-existent. By the end, one little girl is missing, and even her friend is like, yeah, that's fine, I guess. I'm okay. What? Tell, don't show, doesn't apply here in this movie. We see tons of spooky things occur and entities appear that look spooky as hell. This is an angle I do like. We've seen countless paranormal movies where we see nothing, so this was kind of refreshing. Even if it has been done before, it showed a lot more than The Conjuring 1 or the first Annabelle. Don't let any of my negatives tear you away from this movie, though. It is a solidly scary movie. We've seen stuff like this before with The Conjuring 1 and 2 and the first Annabelle, and I do like this movie's use of imagery about the same amount as The Conjuring 2 showcased. And I loved The Conjuring 2. And this was a great movie. Not as good as The Conjuring 2, but much better than the first Annabelle. Impressive and artistic camera techniques and tricks are abound, and bound to be awesome with every Conjuring-esque movie. The acting from everyone is solid. There is one deleted character moment where one of the girls has been a complete bitch the whole movie, and then she has a redeeming line that they reluctantly opted to take out, which I was not too happy with that decision. Also, the last 15 minutes or so is the roller coaster thrill ride you build up to while watching this movie. However, the demon seems to be in more than one place at once, which didn't seem like a single demon's doing, even though that's what it was supposed to be doing in this case. The scares were mostly jump scare fueled, but when genuine suspense was implemented, it worked to some extent. It was a little too dark at times to see, but when it looked scary, it was visually visceral. Speaking of visceral content, the gore, the effects. This is, so far, the goriest movie in the Conjuring universe, in my opinion. Broken fingers. Someone is found ripped in 2, and there's a slit throat. It is not tame, and definitely fits the R rating. Horror, violence, and terror. A majority of the effects were practical and looked great. I think this movie had a lot going for it, in terms of scares and visceral terror. The motion picture soundtrack, Benjamin Wolfich, who also composed It's 2017 and Lights Out, does a commendable job here. Lots of evil and tension in this movie's score. At this point, the music is a bit generic, but it isn't bad because of that. I think it fits the movie perfectly. This is a solid prequel to a prequel spin-off. While it could have used less jump scares, some minor editing tweaks, more character development from some of the cast and script, and a bit more tension, I still think this movie is solid. There were definitely a few genuinely scary parts, and there were even some scenes where I didn't want to see what was really there, because I was already scared enough. In those regards, this film succeeds. It has decent development for some of its characters, some suspenseful sequences, and great camera techniques. Really, the film is an equal counterbalance, swaying more towards the side of being better rather than worse. So I'd say it is a solid movie that is a bit above decent. Overall, I give Annabelle Creation a 3 out of 5. Lion Brian Gatto, host of Horror Show Entertainment. Make sure to like my Facebook page in the description below to leave comments and subscribe.